So this is a 12 drawer Drexel dresser I just picked up. All the drawers work really smoothly. The wood, it looks like it's in good shape from the wood standpoint. Someone put this plastic, it's a wrap on top of this. It's plastic wrap. It's real sticky. All that's got to come off. It looks like it could be good news underneath this, looking at that. But yeah, we're going to see what's going to take to put this back into its former glory. So I think this is probably the biggest restoration job, refinishing job I've had, because all of this horrible paint has got to come off. So the first thing I need to do is get this plastic wrap off the top of this dresser. I didn't film doing most of it when I had started. A neighbor came by and actually helped me to take most of it off. So I didn't film that part of it. Not very exciting, but it just was some kind of a plastic wrap that was on this dresser, and it needed to come off before I could do anything else. So I have decided that I'm going to paint at least the body of the dresser, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the top yet. I know the top is a veneer. I've done a Drexel heritage dresser before and found that the top was a veneer, and with a little spot that is shown underneath whatever they did to the top of this, I could also tell there was a two-toned kind of veneer. Since I don't know what I'm going to do with the top yet, I don't want to sand through it. So to make a long story short, I started with acetone to try to get this black off. That didn't work so well. I mean, it was working, but it was going to take forever. So I then decided that I'm going to have to use a chemical stripper. I really don't like using strippers. They were such a mess. But in this case, since I want to make sure I don't blow through that veneer with a sander, I'm going to strip it. It did take me 2 coats of stripper to get everything off, but I finally did get all of it off and ended up with a clean dresser top, which was beautiful. But like I said, I'm not sure what yet I'm going to do with the top, if I'm going to stain it or if I'm going to paint it. I hate to cover up the veneer. It really is pretty, but I've also found that in my area, two-tone dressers do not sell very well. But I do want to see what I've got before I make that decision. So as you can see, the top it really is beautiful. I've got it all cleaned up. And now I'm going to take some crud cutter and I'm going to clean it up. And then after that, I'm going to take soap and water and clean that off. And then we'll make a decision on where we go from there. So I decided to go over the top one more time with acetone and fine grade steel wool, just to get any last remnants of that stain off of there. I could see a little bit of it down the grain, and the acetone at this point in time works really, really well to get that last little bit of paint or stain, whatever it is that's on there, out. So we'll go over the whole top, and then after I do that, I'm going to go back with soap and water. Yeah, I just decided after I looked at it a little bit further that it just needed one more round of acetone and cleaning to get this perfectly clean and looking good. And then I'm going to decide what to do with it. Paint it or stain it. Now that it's clean, I'm going to smooth out the top. It's a little rough from everything. And I'm going to use a 180 to 220 sanding pad on my surf prep and I'm doing this at a lower speed. I just want to smooth the top out. I do not want to burn through that veneer. So I'm going to go over the entire top with this. And then we're going to have a conversation with my lovely wife, Jill, on what we're going to do with this, paint or stain. Here's how the conversation went. I'm not going to be able to do that because I burned through the veneer on one of the drawer fronts.
Oh, okay. You did what on the drawer front?
I'll show you the drawer. Oh, yes, this one. It burned through the veneer.
Oh.
I can't cover that up with stain.
Oh. How'd that do that?
Sanded it too hard.
Oh.
So I can't cover that up. I have to paint it. I can paint it light.
Yeah, I think that definitely is. I mean, I just think it's such a beautiful piece.
Now I can stain the top.
Stain the top, just light, and then paint the rest.
Could do that.
Yeah, I think it should be all the same.
You do.
Yeah. I don't know. I know you see all these that they have the top stain and the bottom stain. Yeah, but I don't think they sell very well, do they?
I don't know. I'm not sure I could even use a paint wash on that without it. I guess I can play with that one drawer. I mean, I can't stain it, so.
Okay.
It just won't cover that. It'll look
Yeah.
different.
Okay.
Do you think maybe just paint the whole thing a light color?
Yeah, I think light's gonna be best.
Not dark?
Not dark.
Not
It's too big.
olive green, sage green?
No, I don't think green. It's too big. Needs to be light.
Okay.
Sage, that's what Jane thinks is like a sage green.
Oh, she didn't say. We think about cutting the base and squaring it up.
Yeah, you could cut the base and square it up to make it more modern.
So that's how the conversation went. So we decided that it would be best to paint it all the same color. I really wanted to do something with the top, but my wife has pretty good intuition. And so we're going to paint it a light color, yet to be determined. And as you heard, we talked about the base, and we're going to cut that as well to modern it up. So we're going to do that. We've made decisions, and we're going to move on. Now that I got the top squared away, I'm moving on to the drawers. The first thing I need to do is to remove all of the hardware. There's 12 of these drawers, 2 handles each, so there's 24 of these handles I've got to remove. I'm not going to keep them. I think they're ugly, and I'm not going to reuse this hardware, so I'm just going to throw them away. They come out in 2 pieces, the handle and then the little round pieces of the handles. So I'm going to get all these taken off, and then when that's done, we'll begin the process, the very long process of starting to sand all the drawers and preparing them for paint. Also, for most of these drawers, I need to clean up the insides. When they painted the drawers, they got paint on the inside of the boxes. Now this is where acetone works really well. It's not, the paint's not really thick. It's just, sloppy and inside the box. So I am using acetone to get off all the paint. And like I said, acetone works really, really well in this situation. So most of these drawers have paint on the inside, and so most of these drawers I'm going to have to get it removed. And then I'll go on to sanding the boxes. They painted not only the front, but also on the drawer box. So I don't know if I can get a sander in there or not, so I'm going to try to see how good of a hand sand job, how long it's going to take me to get all this paint off. So I'm taking a 120 sanding disc, I've folded it in half, and I'm going to try to sand off the paint on the front of the door box. The paint is coming off pretty easily, but I got 12 of these to do, and that will take me forever. So I don't think I can hold a sander in there very well. I think what I am going to try is my multi-tool and see if I can get it off with that a lot quicker. So I use an 80 grit sanding pad on the multi-tool. Now this did help, it did speed things up, but in the end I still had some hand sanding I had to do, and I also ended up using the surf prep also. But with the combination of the three, I was able to sand it down. It takes a while, and when you got 12 doors to do, it's just going to take a minute. All told, I think I spent 2 or 3 days sanding these drawers. The drawer boxes themselves were also in pretty rough shape, both inside and out. The inside bottom of the drawers were almost in perfect shape, but the outsides were a mess. It looks like they may have been stained at some point, maybe, but I'm taking the surf prep. I'm starting with a 120 on here, and there's also excess paint on the outside of the boxes. So I'm going to do the outside, the insides, except for the bottoms, and then we'll move on to the faces of the drawers. Unfortunately, I just couldn't scuff sand the drawer faces because this had been painted with a brush. There were tons of brush strokes and brush marks all over the door fronts, as well as the entire dresser for that matter. But I have to get rid of the brush strokes, so that means I've got to take this paint down until it's smooth, which is a lot more than just scuff sanding. And so I switched to a 180 pad on the surf prep, and then I will finish up with a 220 and get all these drawer fronts all smoothed out. I haven't filled the holes in yet. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about the handles, but they're still there. But we're going to do this, and like I said, have I mentioned I have 12 of these to do? I think I have. So this is going to take a while, and but I need to get it smooth so that the new paint job will not incorporate any of these brush marks. So I got all the drawers sanded down in front. I suppose I could have stripped them, but I think the paint was coming off pretty easily with the sander, and I used a lot of sandpaper. Here, let me show you. A lot of sandpaper. But at any rate, it was coming off pretty easily. I think by the time I would have set the stripper up, let it sit, and scraped it, cleaned it, I think sanding was a lot easier. So I wanted to show you a before and after of the sides of these drawers. Like I said, I think they've been stained before, but they were pretty rough. But after sanding, what a difference. So I'm probably going to put maybe a natural stain or maybe shellac, dewaxed shellac sealer on the door sides. But amazing difference. Well, I got all the door faces primed. I used a shellac-based primer. That's why I've taped them all off. Normally I would have done that within the dresser, but since I have to use a shellac-based primer, I don't put that in my sprayer. So I bought a spray can, 2 of them actually, and sprayed those. Now that the drawer fronts are done, it's now time to direct my attention to the dresser itself. So, here we are. I've not cleaned the inside yet. The easiest way I found to do that is to take a blower and blow out the inside, and then I'll come back with rag and water and do the rest of it. So I'm going to use my Ryobi blower, and I'm going to blow all the dust and junk that's inside of this dresser. And you can probably see in the video, the dust flying out of here. It was really pretty dirty on the inside. Once I get all this done, then I'll come back and I'm going to take soap and water or wash it down, and then we'll start the sanding process. After going through a little bit of sandpaper, I realized that this paint is so soft, I can get off my carbide scraper a lot easier and not waste all the sandpaper. I wish I just don't have one that is quite the right width, so I gotta go this multiple times, and finding and just taking a little bit of sandpaper so I get the majority of it off, I think, with a carbide scraper, and then go back over it and get the little bit rest of it off. So live and learn. So I will get that how easy that comes off. So I want to save quite a bit of sandpaper doing this, and it might be a little quicker too. So I'm going to take a little break from all the detail work and go after the sides of this dresser. I'm using a 100 grit sanding disc on my orbital, and I would have used something a little lower, but I would have used 80, but I didn't have any, so I was out. So I'm using 100, and I'm taking this all the way down and removing all the paint because it's just so many brush strokes. And by the time I get all the brush strokes out, well, I've removed almost all the paint. So do this on both sides. Then I'll go back over it with a 220. Probably what I'll do is go up to a 150, then a 220, and make sure it's all smooth. As I had mentioned earlier, I decided, or my wife suggested that we cut the base, and I agree. I think it will make it a little bit more modern. So I've taped it up to show where I want to cut, and I'm taking a jigsaw. And it always makes me nervous when I cut bases, because once you start to cut, you're kind of committed, and there's no return, off of this. So I've got to cut both the front and the sides, and then once I've got that done, we're going to clean up the edges, because I try to hold the jigsaw just as steady as I can, but it is a little waviness, so I've got to sand that all out and make it all straight. And once I've got all that done, then we'll go back to sanding the rest of the dresser. So I have to clean up the cuts on both sides and the front. So I'm going to use a 60 grit sanding disc on my orbital, and we're going to get this all straightened up. So once I get this done, we'll go to the other side. We'll get that straightened up, and then we'll head for the front. So trying to make sure that this is all level, and but once I get this sanded down, it's all going to look great, and you're never even going to be able to tell there's any waviness at all. So this is what the base looks like now. It's been sanded. All the waviness has been taken out of the cuts. It's very straight, and I do have a couple of repairs I've got to do. So we'll get out some Bondo, and we'll make those repairs. But this came out very nice. I'm really pleased. So we'll make those repairs, let that dry, and then I'm going to tackle the rest of the detail work that I haven't done yet, and get the rest of this paint off of this dresser. We're getting close to prime time. It's been 3, maybe 4 days of sanding on this, so I'm ready to prime. So I've got the front all sanded down. I used my surf prep with that 150 to 180 sanding pad, but it didn't get everything. So I've got to go back and do a little bit of hand sanding. Um, and this paint does come off pretty easily. And I need to get it all off because I have figured out in sanding this that the paint's pretty loose. And I need to get it all off so it won't interfere with the new paint job. So, because it'll just flake off and then it's going to look horrible. So this takes a little bit of work, but in the end, it will be worth it. So get all these little, paint flecks and chips off of here, and then I'm going to move on to the very top of the dresser where I've got that detail up there and figure out how I'm going to get all that paint off. So on this detail up here, this is painstaking, but I poured acetone in here, which softened up the paint, and I actually went over it with my surf prep first to get all the top layer off as much as I could, and then I'm going back through and scraping out between each one of these things to get all the gunk and the paint out. And there's a lot of stuff coming out of here. So, honestly, if I could have taken this off, I would have. But, so that's what I'm doing. I'm only this far. I've got the rest of the way to go. And it's going to probably be an hour before I get done. Okay. The sanding is complete. It's amazing. I'm now going to go back over it with acetone and get any small paint remnants off, and then we'll be ready to. Then I'm going to wash it down one more time, and then we'll be ready to prime. So I poured acetone into a plastic cup, and I'm going wiping it all down to get any last little bit of paint off. Kind of a funny story, a blooper, I guess, if you will, that I didn't get the film. But when I first started this, I grabbed a red Solo cup. And when I poured the acetone in there and started to work, I noticed that it was dripping from the cup. Well, the way the red Solo cups are so thin, or maybe the plastic they were made of, the acetone ate right through the bottom, and out came the bit of acetone I had in there. So I had to change cups, and so let that be a lesson. Do not use a red Solo cup to pour your acetone in there. So now that I have the dresser all cleaned up, I'm back to the drawers, and I need to sand down the primer. Yeah, the shellac-based primer goes on pretty smooth. I find that if I roll it or use a brush, it comes out a lot smoother than using a spray can. But I use the can. So I'm going to take my surf prep with a 220 sanding sheet on here. I'm running at a little bit lower speed because I don't want to burn through the primer. I just want to get it smooth. So I'm not going to speed down just a little bit, and then I'll go over each one of these and get the drawer fronts all smooth. And once that's done, then we'll be ready to paint. Okay, I'm going to start priming. Since I'm using shellac, I'm going to brush it on, brush and roll. All these little detail stuff I'm going to brush, and then we'll roll the big ends in the sides and the tops. So another not so smart thing I did is I initially picked up a foam brush. I don't know what I was thinking. That shellac paint was going to destroy that brush, and within a few seconds it did, and I had to change brushes. So let that be a lesson. Do not use a foam brush with shellac paint because it's just going to eat it up, and you're going to have to change brushes. So I'm not going to show painting the details because unfortunately the video I took, as you can see, is really more of my back. which I don't think any of you really want to see. So I'll just show you when it's all primed, and then we'll go from there. Okay, the primer's dried. It's now time to sand it smooth. So and then, it didn't completely cover the way I rolled this in certain areas. So I am going to make sure there's no bleed through. But for right now, I'm going to sand it down, and hopefully it won't need to bleed through. So I'm using a 180 to 220 sanding pad. I think it's a 10 millimeter pad on the Circ Prep, and I'm running it at one of the lower speeds because I don't want to remove the primer. I just want to get it smooth. Shellac-based primers come out fairly smooth anyway, but it's still a little rough. So going back over this, it's kind of like a scuff sand, I guess. And we'll get this all smooth, and we're going to do this on the entire dresser. And then once that's done, we'll be ready to turn it back upright, and I think we'll be ready to paint. Well, I have to do a little bit more painting. It's maybe a little hard to see, but the drawer is inset, all of them are, as it turns out, into the frame of the dresser. So you can see where the primer didn't hit. So I think what I have to do, let me show you. So this lip right in here on the sides, maybe the top two to a certain extent, I'm going to have to paint this so that it's you don't see that dart. So I'm going to get the primer. Have to wipe this all down, and then we're going to prime it and let that dry, and then we'll be finally ready to put on the first probably 2 coats of the base coat that I'm going to use on here. Well, I got the inside of these drawer frames painted. First time I've had to do this on a dresser. Usually I don't do that, but because they showed, I went ahead and primed them, and then we'll put the base coat of paint on. So I've decided to put knobs on the drawers, and so I need to fill in some holes and drill some new ones actually. So on the long drawers, I'm just filling in the outside holes, and I'm going to put knobs on the 2 holes where the screws are sticking out. So I need to fill in, and when I use Bondo, I try to leave a little bit of a ridge, kind of on top of the hole. That way when I sand down, it goes smooth. Otherwise, it could leave a little depression, and then you got to go back over either with more Bondo or possibly, wood filler of some sort. On the middle drawers, I'm going to use just 1 hole, and I've already drilled. You can see the screw sticking out in the middle of the other 2. So I need to fill the other 2 holes. I used a King and Charles jig to do those holes. It's pretty simple, and I didn't show that. But so I'm gonna probably have to go through a couple of mixings of Bondo here, and then when all that's done, we'll have to sand it off. Now, that turns out to be a mistake that I should have made this decision well before I primed, because now that I'm putting Bondo on here, I'm going to have to sand down again, which means I'm going to have to then prime the drawers, at least spot prime again, and sand that smooth. So I made a little bit of extra work on myself by delaying this decision. But I guess until it was primed, I guess I couldn't see what I really wanted to do. So a little bit more extra work, but it'll be okay. So finally, I've gotten to the point of being able to spray the first of at least 2 coats of the base paint on this dresser. I'm using Sherwin-Williams Natural Linen, and it's a really light beige color, and but this dresser is pretty long, so I kind of have to angle it in here, do one end, and then kind of angle it back the other way, push it in, do the other end, then the top, and then the front. So it takes a minute. I guess I need a bigger spray tan, but we're going to get this first coat put on here, and it's going to take about 4 hours to dry, and then we're going to come back and put a second coat and possibly a third, depending on how that covers. Since I spray the dresser with the drawers in, the sprayer obviously can't hit the sides, the top, and the bottom of the drawers, especially on this dresser since they're inset a little bit. So I need to do that by hand. So what I'm going to do is paint the bottom of the drawers first. Some people don't paint the bottoms, and lots of times when you buy even a new dresser, the bottoms of the drawers are not finished very well. But I figured, I'm here, I got to paint them anyway, so why not do a complete job and touch up the bottoms as well. So I'm going to paint the bottoms first. I'm going to slide the drawer back in partially and then do the sides and the top, and I'm going to multiply that by 12. And then I think once that's done, we'll be ready to put the first coats of poly. I did end up spraying 3 coats of this paint on this dresser. The 2 coats seemed to be okay, but I just wanted to make sure that it was covering completely. So I had the paint. It didn't take long to spray, and I just felt it was going to be a better job if I put the third coat on. Now that the drawers have all been touched up, it's finally time to put on the top coat. I'm using Minwax polyacrylic. It's a water-based top coat in a matte finish, and I'm going to spray 3 coats on the entire dresser. I want to make sure that this is protected really well. So we're going to put these on here, and then I do have some other issues I need to address, and we'll talk through those, and then we're almost done with this dresser. After I got done painting the dresser, I noticed that 2 or 3 of the drawers were binding a little bit. Not much, but I thought enough that over time it would wear down the finish on the top of the drawer. So I'm gonna to sand down the underneath of the drawer frame there where my hand is, and with my surf prep, and smooth this out enough so that the drawers don't bind. It's paying attention to details like this is what makes a good project into an excellent project, in my opinion. So the inside of this drawer, I don't know if you can see it. Right in here, it doesn't look very good. So I'm going to try to use Restore Finish to see if I can restore this back up. So I'm going to use Restore Finishes, this stuff. This is in the color of walnut, which it looks like it's pretty close. So I'm going to put a little on here. And oh yeah. Look at that come alive. Oh yeah. Wow, what a difference. Brings it right back to life. Before I show you the finished transformation, I want to remind you of where we started from. This is what it looked like after I had just picked it up from the gentleman I bought it from on Facebook Marketplace. And here is the final finished transformation. Does this even look like that original dresser that I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace? This is a beautiful transformation and makeover of this Drexel dresser. This is one of my favorite projects I did. It didn't turn out to be as much work as I initially thought, but it was a lot of work, a lot of sanding, 3 or 4 days worth of sanding. But the quality of this dresser is just impeccable. And now that we've refinished it in this really light off-white natural linen color, it is just gorgeous with the brand new knobs, the cut base. My wife wants to keep this. I told her no. And this did sell within 1 week of posting it up on Facebook Marketplace. I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it educational and possibly entertaining and learned from some of the mistakes that I made and from some of the techniques I applied. Thank you so very much. Please, if you've not subscribed and to my channel, and I will see you on the next furniture transformation from the next season.